This isn't a political book. It is pretty much about what happened to me in my last 2 years of service. This isn't for the right or the left, it's for everyone, because if this can happen to us, it can happen to anybody. I mean, everything is in this story. It's a story of grit, it's a story of loyalty, it's a love story, story of perseverance, and it's a story of victory. So I'm Eddie Gallagher, retired Navy SEAL. I retired in 2019. I spent a little over 20 years in the military. I did about 4 years with the Marines as a corpsman, and then the rest of the time is with the SEAL teams. Biggest challenge I faced becoming a SEAL was actually before, when I was with the Marines, just trying to get orders to go to BUD/S. That was a feat within itself. I must have taken the screener test and passed the screener test about 15 times, but nobody would sign me off because they wanted me to stay over on that side. And I almost, I was close to quitting. I was close to just not going. I was getting frustrated. And luckily one chief came in and saw that I had screened so many times and took me down to PSD or admin and got me orders right then and there. So it was a blessing. Quitting never crossed my mind once going through BUD/S. I think because it took so much for me to get there. By the time I got to BUD/S, I mean, every day I woke up and was happy to be there, just because I knew how much it took to get there. So I was expecting everything that came at me, and I was definitely prepared. So quitting never, crossed my mind. I think when people show up to BUD/S, there's a group of people that know they're going to make it, and there's a group of people that think they're going to make it. Hell Week weeds those people out. So, going into Hell Week, you go in with the attitude, it's, I'll die before I leave. And it gets to a point during Hell Week where, you're beat down and it just keeps happening. But what Hell Week is actually a beautiful thing, because there's a portion of your brain that sort of snaps about midway through, and you realize that your body can do 1,000 more times what you actually think is capable of, and it's all up here. As long as you have a positive mindset up here and a strong, never quit attitude, you can get through. But there's definitely a transition during that week where your mind flips and you're pretty much on robot mode, and you'll do whatever the instructors tell you to do. I mean, I think if they told you to jump off a cliff, you'd do it. You're there. There's nothing like BUD/S. I mean, especially Hell Week, there's nothing that can replicate that week. I mean, I think that week stands out alone is why we have the toughest military training in the military. So now, after getting out, and obviously the last 2 years of my military experience was a rough one. I went through a lot of adversity, but coming out now, you go through adversity and you come out strong, you come out stronger on the other end. So I want to pay that forward. I want to help other people out. I want to spend my time serving people. And so we created the Pipe Hitter Foundation, which is helping law enforcement, active duty, and first responders. If they're getting unjustly tried or accused, we will support their legal defense and also give emergency relief funds to their families as they're going through that rough time. Having the United States government come after you, and then also the media smearing you all over the place. The biggest thing I did that got me through is I got on my hands and knees and talked out loud to God and gave everything to Him. And so it's like, this, whatever your will is, and that was a physical weight I could feel lifted off my shoulders. Not to say that the rest of my time in that prison was easy, but I knew that God was watching over me. And then the second thing is, I had my wife and my brother, who to this day, those two are my heroes. They stood up and took on the United States government and the media, and they won. But it was their drive and determination, and just the way they fought for me day to day. It kept me fighting day to day while I was locked up, knowing what they were doing for me out there. I'll tell you this: when I was going through all of that, when I was locked up, a good buddy of mine, Keith Berry, who was also wrongly convicted, and he was locked up for 3 years, and they found out that he was innocent the whole time. He was locked up in the same brig I was in. He wrote me a little note just on a little card, and I have it hanging on my fridge, and it said, "This pain will serve you well someday." And that is the most important message that I read every morning. It's, you know, as much of a nightmare as that was, it made myself and my family stronger. And it just, you know, it just made us realize that nothing's going to break us, and we can just keep pushing forward. And that was a silver lining for me. Just seeing how strong my kids are, how strong my wife is, and then being able to shine a light on the injustice that goes on at the UCMJ. I think my case, it was a blessing. It's a blessing for other service members, but I'm glad to go through something like that because it did shine a light, because this happens all the time to other service members. It just because I was a Navy SEAL, I got a lot of exposure. But there are plenty of people that are locked up right now that don't belong, and these are people that signed up to serve their country, and they're being punished unjustly. And so that's a huge thing that we're doing with the foundation. But I don't think that would have happened if this whole nightmare hadn't happened. So that's a silver lining. Now the book's out, because I spent the last year working on the book, and now that's out. And once that's over with, my main goal is to just spend as much time as I can with my wife and kids, since I wasn't able to do that over the past 20 years. So that's my main priority. And then the rest is, like I said, I want to serve other people. I want to help people that are transitioning out, but I also want to help, train people, especially in the time that we're in now. I think that people need to learn how to defend themselves properly. So that's one thing I want to do next, is start training people, whether it's with guns or fighting or anything else, medical. I'm teaching tactical combat casualty care with a group, Templar Medical. And so I think that's a huge component of what I want to do, because I think that medical aspect is overlooked a lot. But I mainly just want to serve other people, help other people, man, and just pass on all the positivity that surrounded me during my trial. I want to pay that forward. I don't want to look at that and be like, oh, it's all right, that's over with. It's like, no, that was a big deal, and the amount of people that surrounded me, from all over the country that I didn't even know and showed support, like, I want to give that back. I'll give the same advice I'd give to a person going into the military or going into a selection process. Don't quit. I think we're seeing a lot of veterans come out. The suicide epidemic is high because transition is not easy out of the military. I think it's a struggle, but it's one that you can get through. My advice to veterans coming out, especially the soft community, is fix yourself first. Don't get out and try and go into a job right away because you think you have to. Fix what's going on up here, and that's huge. That's becoming a pillar of our nonprofit as well, is the mental health, because as we're seeing, a lot of guys are coming out with traumatic brain injuries, PTSD, among other injuries they receive over however many years they were in, and those things catch up with you when you're out. So the first thing you got to do is fix yourself. Go get treatment. Reach out to people. Don't be afraid to ask for help. What I see is a lot of veterans isolate themselves, and because they don't want to bother anybody else with their problems. And I just want to let them know, like, it's not bothering anybody. You need to, get out and ask for help. I did it. My first year out was a struggle, and I went and got treatment, and it did wonders for me. I mean, and this is the other thing. It's especially for combat veterans, you touch combat, it's going to touch you back, and it's going to stay with you for the rest of your life. But learning ways to cope with that, healthy ways to cope with that, is huge. And that's my advice that I would give to guys getting out. So the book, The Man in the Arena, is pretty much about what happened to me in my last 2 years of service, but it's also, it follows me through my career, but it mainly focuses on those last 2 years. What type of reader do I want reading the book? Any type of reader. This isn't a political book. This isn't for the right or the left. It's for everyone, because if this can happen to us, it can happen to anybody. And it's a story. Everything is in this story. It's a story of grit. It's a story of loyalty. It's a love story, story of perseverance, and it's a story of victory. you know. So I think, you know, no matter what side you fall on, everyone's going to get something out of that book.
Fulcrum 1, ready, 9 line. Type 2 control by Misty 3-1, 133 NA, 25 feet, vehicles in the open.